Hello, plant-based nutrition support group. Woo! I missed this, and I missed all of you. I really did, okay? Just so you know, I really missed this, and I missed you guys, okay? Before we get the show going, let's take a moment of silence to remember and honor those that we have lost. In this quiet reflection, we could celebrate their lives and the impact they continue to have on our hearts. All right, welcome, dear friends, to this long-awaited reunion. Hey, by the way, isn't this kind of funny? This is Paul Living. It's curriculum night, okay? So what does that mean? Every hour, you're going to hear a tone interrupting our gig here, okay? And I think it's cool. Okay, I really don't. But if we look at it like it's cool, then it's cool. So every time you hear that tone, smile. All right. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years. And by the way, I got my first real big boy haircut in 30 years, just for this event, all right? It's really weird. The guy has got all these razors. I just thought if you just shave your head with number one, that's all you needed. All right. So much has changed, but what has not changed is our love of this movement, PBNSG, and ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Neal Barnard. I would like to personally thank each and every one of you for making this a beautiful, memorable night. So clap for yourself, please. Hey, check this out. How do you know if someone is plant-based? Oh, don't worry. They'll tell you. That was my best one, by the way. Okay. Let's all stand up for just a moment so you could greet your neighbor. Come on. All right. Okay. Hey, Tracy. Nice to see you here. Hey, by the way, you guys, check it out. This is pretty funny. This is going to be, I'm going to catch serious hell for this, but Tracy Chatlin, please stand up. Oh, come on. Come on, she's been putting up with my shit for 25 years. And I'm sorry I used the S word, but it's true, okay? Oh, we took separate cars. All right. Oh, I'm in trouble. As a community, we have faced unprecedented challenge during these past 4 years. We've navigated lockdowns, isolation, loss, uncertainty, but we also found a way to adapt and preserve and grow. And it does still feel amazing. It does. So, Brett, where are you? Marion. She hates when I do this. Marion's all the way in back. So if everyone would look back at Marion, because she chose to be all the way in back. Here we go. Yes, I would like to personally thank you both. And Megan, if she was here. Okay? For without you three, PBNSG would not be. We would not have this moment we are sharing right now. They are PBNSG, providing unwavering dedication expertise, most of all, compassion to one another and to anybody who connects with us. We are a team. We are friends. I would also like to give my love and my admiration to our amazing volunteers today. Please, volunteers, stand up. Thank you. Thank you. And I must tell you that it was like when Neal called and said, let's do this. And of course, what he doesn't know is if he's asked me to do anything, I'll do it. All right? Immediately I thought, okay, we're going to call the volunteers. And everyone I talked to, and it had been years, said yes. And so thank you so much. Thank you. And I would also like to let the old small group hosts of our past just let you know I'm sorry that we had to separate a little bit. And I want you to know that it meant a lot as we were growing these small groups. We were up to 54 when COVID hit. And I think about it all the time. I really do. So that's about what I got, but make sure that the next time you go to your... Oh, by the way, little side note. I'm part of the LP little a study. Okay? So it's a, who wants to be part of a study? I just give blood every 3 months. But I want to give back. And I must tell you, as a heart disease patient who started this organization because of heart disease, I had to get a stent about 1.5 years ago. And I got to admit to you guys, I was really pissed and depressed, Oh. See, it works. Okay. So I had to get a stent because all of a sudden the angina come back. I couldn't how can this be? I eat plant-based, right? I've changed my life. I changed my family around, And then I found out that my LP little a score was 350. Well, hell, it's no wonder why I had angina because, that's what caused a 99% block on my left artery. Yeah, the left artery. I was in pretty bad shape. But, thank God for, technology. Got the stent. Here I am. Feel great. So I'm just suggesting to anybody here today, when the next time you see your doctor, if you've not gotten your LP little a tested, get a lipid panel just for that and find out what it is. The number should be under 50. If it's over, you need to talk to your doctor. All right, there's my little bit of warning on that one. Hey, do you know what a vegan Viking is called? A Norwegian. Let us never forget why we started this journey in the first place, for our health, the love of one another, and once again, thank you everybody for letting me be here today. All right. I know it'd be kind of depressing. This is my last joke. Okay. What do you call a poker player that's also a doctor? A cardiologist. I got some pretty good reviews this time around. Not bad. All right. So let me introduce our first speaker. This one I could do without looking. So here I was thinking, okay, I'm on this gurney. I say, I swear to God, Lord, if you get me out of this situation without bypass surgery, I promise to give back. Like, who would have thunk someone was listening? And right there at the moment, Dr. Cleveland Clinic says, hey, would you consider changing your lifestyle and maybe you don't need surgery? Like right then, I'm like, whoa, this is crazy powerful, right? And I said, now, you gotta remember, I was on some morphine drip or something. I was being wheeled in. I was totally buzzed. I looked at him and I said, sure, I'll do a lifestyle change. I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea. So I thought initially what I'd do is I'd go after, I couldn't cook, by the way, so I took a cooking class at the Esselstyns. I put the receipt in. The receipt was rejected by Blue Cross Blue Shield, so it's pretty funny. They'll cut a check for $125,000 for triple bypass surgery, but they wouldn't give me a $750 rebate. Got a problem with that, right? I hope so. All right, so I thought, okay, the only way to make that change is you have to work with the legislature up in Lansing. and that wasn't going to be my jam for the next bunch of years. So I decided instead to just do a $20 ad. What's kind of cool is some of my friends in all these years, 12 years later, are still here today. And I said, hey, listen, I want to open up my house. Let me experience and share with you everything I know about whole food plant-based. But while 20 people would show up, next month 20 people would show up, and I'm like, wow, I'm onto something. But they're asking me medical questions, and I ain't a doctor. I don't play it, and I'm not. I don't even know if I like them that much sometimes, okay? But what I did know is I needed help. So I went to the heads of cardiology at the 3 hospitals, Henry Ford, Providence, Beaumont. Give me the name of some lifestyle cardiologists. They all gave me 3 names. One name was repeated. It was Dr. Joel Kahn. I was like, okay, I don't know who this guy is, but I might as well go meet him. His name was repeating. So sure enough, I called him up. He invited me over. 4 hours later, I'm like, I don't have to call anybody else. He's my guy. I'm his guy. And what I will say to everybody here is, and I'll tell you a quick little personal story, because it's important, which is he has been by our side, my side, never wavering for 12 years. And you know, it's interesting, and we know and love Joel. He's got opinions that may not be like mine. And there was moments where I sat there and said, I love you, but you have to decide, like, are we going to continue being friends or not? And our challenge is to stay friends. And I got to give him all the credit in the world because we are still brothers. We are still friends. And the fact is that, yeah. You know, and, you know, I admire him, and I tell people he's one of the smartest men I have ever met in my life, and I'd like everybody to warm welcome for Dr. Joel Kahn. Got a problem with that?
So they gave me 5 minutes to speak, and I learned if you speak for 3, they invite you back. So I'll be done in a moment. We have a much better presentation. But my street cred is I just entered my 48th year of whole food plant-based living. I started at age 18. I just turned 65. So I don't know that that's any kind of world record even in the room, but you know, I'm not in that protein deficiency ward, and I'm in pretty good health at age 65 plus by having eaten a whole lot of broccoli sprouts over the years. Number 2, I've been teaching plant-based eating to cardiology patients now for 34 and a half years of the 34.9 years I've been a cardiologist, because on July 21, 1990, I was in practice for 3 weeks at Dr. Brakey's Hospital, St. Joe's, Ann Arbor. July 21, 1990, there was a publication in my mailbox by a guy I never heard of named Dean Ornish that said if you eat whole food, plant-based, and do some other weird stuff, important weird stuff like meditate, you can reverse plaque. And I just said, I got to teach this to patients. I've been doing this for years, but it was just something we did in our family. So it's been a wonderful journey to give every patient at least, you know, a little lifeline that they ought to learn a little bit about what Paul correctly called lifestyle medicine, which is grounded in whole food, plant-based eating. I have a weekly podcast. Some of you have been very kind to say something because I work hard on it, called Heart Doc VIP. I write newsletters for docs. Gives me an opportunity to read lots of medical literature all the time, a lot of it published by Dr. Neal Barnard, who puts out probably the best, you know, supportive data, because that's what the results are, not because he slants it that way for whole food plant-based eating. You know, we are so strongly in the right sector of this giant, never-ending food war. Now it's protein high, protein low, and seed oil bad and seed oil good, but it's always going to be plant-based versus meat-based. And some of you have seen, I don't mind engaging carnivores and ketovores, and been on some crazy, you know, debate podcasts even in the last 6 weeks. And they always are wrong because they have no data, and we just have so much data. They're strong-willed and they're noisy, and that's part of what Paul, you know, talked about. I don't mind being opinionated because we have the data. So just stay strong, stay plant-based. I tell all the patients, don't creep back. I don't want to hear that you added a little fish and a little this, because next thing it's going to be a pepperoni, you know, Little Caesar's pizza. So, you know, just fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. It's all you ever need with some fresh water and fresh air, and you're good. So anyways, thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm so excited we're back live. I'm so excited that we brought back our premier speaker and supporter from Washington, D.C., and I'm done because I want to hear his talk. Thank you, Paul. God bless.
A little side story. General Motors many years ago called us up, PBNSG, and said, "Hey, we've got all these retirees. You got to help us." So who did I call? I called Dr. Neal, and I said, "I need your help." Okay, and he didn't hesitate a second, and we thought this was going to be our moment. We've all had those moments where we said, "Wow, this is going to change all of us." If General Motors hires us to improve the health of the retirees, the world will know, then Ford will know, then all these people know. It didn't happen. But for that period of time, we thought, maybe it might. So, all right. So I'd like now to introduce, this is kind of exciting. I want to introduce the future of PBNSG. Brian and Brett, will you please join me on stage? Look at that. Look how quick he is. That's the future right there. Brian, come on up here, please. Allow me a moment to tell you about my two friends here. I met Brett 7 years ago at Flint Veg Fest. It was at the same time I was in week 3 of being a web person. Isn't that funny? I was a web person. Yeah. No surprise, I am not an IT person, okay? A few days later, Brett became PBNSG's IT director. His loyalty to us all has never wavered. He's a dear friend of mine. I'm truly the lucky one. He has helped us and helped me so many times. So I'd like to introduce first Brett Nyquist.
Hi.
All right. I met Brian a year
Check.
and a half.
Hey, everybody.
Okay. I met Brian a year and a half ago. Have you guys ever, it's had to happen. You meet somebody and you walk away going, "Man, this guy is amazing. He's smart, amazing, and wow." And I said, "That's Brian. He is so smart, kind, and giving. He's a father of 3 little girls. He understands the dreaded word technology like nobody's business. It's crazy cool to watch him do his thing." Together, Brett and Brian will be helping PBNSG move to a very brand new platform called Circle over the next few months. And they're here to show you that all you're going to need to do is just sign in, and all your information will be moved with it. So please join, become a member, and let them show you a little bit about Circle. Thank you. Here you go, guys.
Thank you, Paul. Hey, everybody. I got to say, first off, it is so nice to be back on this stage and see so many friendly faces. But for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Brett Nyquist. I've been the Director of Technology for PBNSG since 2017. My wife and I, we both went plant-based in 2015, and it completely changed our lives. So I'm so honored to be on this stage 7 years later with PBNSG. The backbone of PBNSG were these live events, but when COVID happened, we had to completely pivot online, which translated into us creating this great online platform. This online platform, we were able to provide events like this just via Zoom, support group meetings, discussing various health topics, a library to stream past recordings, and then just a place for people to share their tips and tricks with other people, and then also receive that information as well. Over the past 4 years, we've been able to gain hundreds of members, which is amazing. And so since we have, it's time to give that platform a little bit of a facelift. But before I get into any further details on that, I would like to have Brian introduce himself to you because he is going to help me build the new PBNSG moving into 2025. So, Brian.
Thank you, Brett. I am Brian Denstead. I am a fractional chief technology officer, sort of consultant, the head computer nerd for companies typically by day. And at night, I do the podcast Real Men Eat Plants. So you can check out Real Men Eat Plants. And that's how we met, is we got to join forces with PBNSG, and we help run the Real Men Eat Plants support group. So come join us, men, and we can talk about eating more plants. I'm just excited to be here and work with Brett and Paul and the rest of the PBNSG crew and join you and help this new platform take
We're so
shape.
happy to have you, man. Well, piggybacking off of that, we need to balance this out between how many women we have on the platform with men. So let's do this. So just wanted to go over some online support groups that we have. Each one of these support groups has their own expert host in this exact field. So we have diabetes, heart disease, foods that fight pain, which ties into inflammation. We have a weight loss group, exercise group, where you get to, get exercises each month. Plant-based cooking, vegan kitchen, which actually teaches you essentials of what you should have in your kitchen and pantry staples. Real Men Eat Plants. Woo-woo. Getting started. So if you're just getting started with this lifestyle, we have a place for you. And then plant-based living in an omnivore household, which I think is something that a lot of people struggle with. So you can, if you decide to join the platform, you can become a part of all of them, some of them, one of them. It's your choice. So what can you expect on the new platform? So we have a platform currently, but it just wasn't what we wanted it to be. Check. So now we want to implement direct messaging completely into the platform, where you can message Sarah or you can message Bob directly and start a conversation and really tie into how they're feeling and get advice directly from somebody. So think about, just like a direct message on any other social media platform. More organized, enhanced layout. It's going to be a lot more user-friendly, so anybody of any age can really learn it.
Smile.
Can really learn it. And then we're also going to have an app, so you can access it right from your phone. It's still going to have the access to the past recordings, live events, and support group meetings. And it really, just think of it as a profile like Facebook. You can upload your headshot, bio, location if you want, or you can be a little bit more private. So I wanted to just show a couple screenshots. We are still in early development of this, but a little bit more organized layout. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our current platform, but on the left-hand side, you're going to see a nice layout of each support group in that green box right there. We just highlighted the diabetes. And welcome will consist of, meeting your host. Meetings are going to be your list of meetings that you just join with the click of a button. Discussions are going to be a place where you can just chat with everybody in the diabetes space and get, tips and tricks from them there. And then we also will have recipes under each support group that ties into each topic. That red arrow is pointing at the plant-based lectures, so that's where you'll access online events and past recordings. And funny enough, I decided to highlight the Dr. Khan event that's coming up on October 24th because we are hoping to launch this platform with this event. So it's really as easy as clicking on online events. You get to the event, there will be details, and you click that little join virtual event button, and you're in the meeting. It's that easy. So I'm going to hand it over to Brian so he can chat about a couple other things. Oh, wait, you know what, Brian? This is my slide, too.
I got one more.
So give you a brief timeline of PBNSG, right? We started in 2014, like Paul alluded to, with just a few small support groups. And that accelerated quite quickly. So through 2015 and 2019, we started to hold live events in Michigan. And then we started to get even more small groups. Then we called it the online era. So 2020 to present, we launched our virtual platform during COVID. And our projected launch of the new platform is going to be October 2024. So be on the lookout for that.
Thank you, Brett. That's a great little overview. And so today, if you can and you're enjoying yourself, please take out your phones, take a couple pictures, and post them online. You can follow us at PBNSG on almost every platform. Post a few pictures and help loop in some of those other carnivores and get them into this plant-based lifestyle with us. So there is a strong future ahead, I think. I'm very excited about all the different ways we're going to connect with PBNSG and the community, both by, as Paul alluded, a few more live events coming in 2025, the new online platform, and we're just really excited about the more interactivity and the other features that Brett went through with the platform that's coming here in October.
I mean, at the end of the day, we wanted this to be as connected as it is in real, in person. Very hard to do, but we're going to try our best to do it.
So I think with that, we just had a quick little video to try and get you excited about some of the future stuff that we're going to be doing here at PBNSG. Thank you.
In a world where health is wealth, what we eat forms the foundation of our well-being. Our expert-guided support groups on diabetes, heart disease, and more provide the knowledge you need to make informed decisions. Take control of your health destiny. You're not alone on this journey. Join a thriving community that shares your goals and supports your transformation every step of the way. Effortless integration into your daily life with tools designed just for you. Access meal plans, track your progress, and achieve your health goals through a seamless digital experience. Be the first to experience the future of plant-based living. Our new community platform promises more interactivity, comprehensive tools, and a network that's more robust than ever. Imagine a life where you are in full control of your health. A life with less pain, more energy, and a vibrant future. We make it possible. Are you ready to transform your life? Join PBNSG today and be part of a community that's changing the world one meal at a time.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, I didn't know about this one. Wow, that was amazing. Amazing. All right. We're moving along. I know he's ready to go. He's ready to go. All right. So COVID changed all of us. One of the ways it changed me was expressing my thoughts in writing. And I've been writing open letters to our members for some time now. And about a year and a half ago, I wrote about creating an alliance or a union of like-minded people who would share thoughts and ideas and resources. And I asked, if anybody's interested, and again, it was kind of just like an idle thought, a wish, to give me a shout, let me know if you want to give this a try. Over the next few weeks, 40 people wanted to work together as one and emailed me. But the first one I received was from Meryl Fury. Now, I kind of knew her, had never really met her, but her comment was, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm like, wow, I didn't think I'd be called out on something so quickly. Soon after that call, the Sage Circle Alliance was born. Meryl runs the plant-based nutrition movement in Chicago. And I'm proud to say that she is the first lady who's been girlfriend approved by my wife, Tracy. Really. In fact, I was thinking maybe we should make a seal for that, girlfriend approved, okay. But her mission, Meryl's mission, is improving child nutrition. And she's a driving force for that. And what I admire so much is her honesty. She's got a high compassion and ethics. And, the fact is that she taught me that children don't really have a say. It's what their parents want them to have. So one of my wishes going into the next few years is to get more involved in child nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce my girlfriend-approved and dear friend, Meryl Fury. Let the IT guy help you. Here you go. Hey, let the IT, hey, Kurt, help me. Got it?
Sound check.
Okay.
So hello, wow. So yes, my name is Meryl Fury, and that's my real name. My mom was really nailing it when she named me. I'm a registered nurse, and like Paul said, I lead the plant-based nutrition movement in Chicago area. My passion is about children. I see myself as a mom all the time. My kids are grown, but I just love, love, love children. We have to take better care of them, so that's what I do. I'm also a Food for Life instructor. Thank you very much, Dr. Barnard. And I am on the medical advisory board for the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. So I spend a lot of time in this environment studying and writing and speaking to people and maybe being a bit of a sledgehammer and a little bit of a wrecking ball because I don't feel like we have time to play any more games with our children's nutrition. So I gotta tell you, I feel like, do you remember, you guys know the Rolling Stones, right? We're all old enough to know the Rolling Stones. Do you remember that when they did the song Gimme Shelter, and they had a lesser known female come out and belt out, oh, children, it's just a kiss away. It's just a kiss away. Well, that's how I feel. Like I'm around the well-known legends of the plant-based movement. I feel like that lesser-known female who stepped on stage with Mick Jagger that day. So thank you for having me. It's really a gift. So when I'm not around rock stars in the plant-based movement, I'm really a registered nurse. And I have the honor, like I said, of meeting really amazing people and working with children. And the nonprofit that I lead, Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, was patterned after PBNSG. And the big difference is that we focus on children. And the question is why, like I already said. It's because there's 73 million children in America, and 12 million of those kids go to bed hungry every night or not knowing where their next meal is coming from. 67% of their calories are empty calories. They're coming from ultra-processed foods. And 95% of the US population doesn't get enough fiber, and we know that fiber only comes from plants. This was something from the CDC, that there are children in this country that don't get a fruit or a vegetable in the course of a day, and maybe not in the course of a week. And a lot of kids don't get it in the course of a month. And then we wonder why overweight and obesity is going up, why type 2 diabetes is skyrocketing among our children. And we can use those as proxies for heart disease and high blood pressure, and those are also going up among our children. Autism spectrum disorder also climbing. So what do we do about it? And wait, I want to just say one other thing. Go back here. With all of this, we also know that our children are eating this terrible quality ultra-processed food, and about 40% of them struggle with overweight and obesity. We also know that the American Academy for Pediatrics most recently set out guidelines that said it was okay to give children bariatric surgery at age 13 if they're overweight, excuse me. That's something I can't really live with. You know what? This is something I do every day, and I never shut up about it, so forgive me while I talk about it. So what do we do about it instead? We started a project called 6 Million Seeds, and it's a 3-part project. The first part of the project is a podcast. It's called Growing a Healthy Child, and you can check that out on the Plant-Based Nutrition Movement YouTube channel. We talk to all kinds of people, artists and organic gardeners and scientists and researchers and teachers and all kinds of people about why it's important to feed children healthy food. The second part of the project is that we actually go into schools and we deal with children directly in either schools or camps or faith-based organizations or anywhere, scouting, anywhere children are already gathered, and we feed them healthy food. And we'll do that one time, or we'll do it 8 times. We'll do it as many times as the environment will allow. And by the end of 8 times, those children are transformed. That's a different child once they get the taste of real food and they understand what food does and what is food and why we eat and how it affects the environment and how food choices affect other species. It's important. One of the things, I guess, is the third part of the project, actually, is we look to build alliances and coalition. We always look to work with other people because really our nonprofit is a very small nonprofit and we don't have the capacity to change the world just by ourselves. So this one I just want to highlight is one of the projects we're doing in Illinois. Maybe you guys know, maybe you didn't, that Illinois is the first state in the country that changed their school food law so that children or their parents can request a plant-based lunch and get it. We are super proud of that. This is the second school year that law has been in effect. In the first school year, nobody knew about it. It was the best kept secret in Illinois. So now we've been working with another group, actually balance.org has been a wonderful partner. That's a group that was founded by Michael Greger. And we advocate and we push and we agitate and we disrupt along those lines so that right now we have 8 schools that are pilot schools and they're rolling out plant-based lunches for their entire campus, and we have about 1,000 children who've signed up for this program in the state of Illinois. We are super proud of that. Now, this is what Paul was talking about, another part of this project. Paul didn't know that I was planning on, co-opting this project, this part. But we build alliances, right? And the alliance that we've created between the two of us and, 40 or more other people is called the Sage Circle Alliance. And that is a group of people, they're entrepreneurs, business people, thought leaders, and change makers, all plant-based and all very passionate about this message. And our goal is to uplift those businesses, keep them afloat, because if we don't have businesses doing this work, I don't know where we'll be in the very near future. And on top of that, we also invest in the children's education so that what money we make and what efforts we do impacts the children of our country. Paul, I need you to come back up here. Where are you? I got to say this to you. Okay, and I might cry because I'm given to tears. I love this guy. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because without you, this would not happen. Hundreds of people here tonight to see what you've created and support what you've created. And that you impact people here in this room and in the community and in the entire country. You mean so much to me. Oh. Don't cry. Because if you cry, I'll cry. Okay. Right? I also want to thank Tracy. Yes, I do, because if it wasn't for Tracy, Paul would come unglued sometimes. So Tracy is the ballast that keeps the ship upright. I want to thank both of you for all that you have done. If it wasn't for you and me and us and we, where would we be? Right? You do so much for us. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Fury. Hello? Okay. So, those are like almost real tears I almost had. My God. Crazy. Neal, just give me one more person, and it's the rest of the evening's yours. That's why people came here. I want to also just say to you personally, thank you for making that call to me. Thank you for saying, let's do this. I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to have this meeting because, we're a virtual organization. I've always been curious. I definitely wanted to see some faces I miss. we got so many people here today. It's so motivating, but I just want to personally thank you for making that call, okay? All right, so Dr. Robert Brakey. You know, along people's life journey, you meet so many amazing people, don't you? Dr. Brakey is just one of those people. He embodies kindness and compassion for every time we talk or meet. That's how I feel. From the moment I met Bob, he greeted me with a smile, and that put me at ease. Remember, I mentioned I really don't like that many doctors. His concern for me and all his patients goes beyond the symptoms. He listens. He validates my feelings and my fears, which gives me a sense of trust that I have for him. One of the things I like the most is he's positive. His outlook is always encouraging and focuses on the possibilities rather than the limitations. He reminds me that healing is not just about the physical, but it's also nourishing the spirit. He's also the chairman of the board of PBNSG, my friend, and he just made a big move. He's now a lifestyle medical doctor outside of the corporation. You know, so all he wants to do is help people. He's helped me a lot. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last thing you're going to hear from me, Dr. Robert Brakey. Come on up.
Thank you, Paul. So appreciate you. Yeah. So how many, I know most of you from previous meetings in the years past, how many your first PBNSG meeting? All right, we got a lot of newbies too. All right, that's great. Welcome, welcome. As Paul mentioned, I've been with PBNSG almost since its inception. I'm chair of the board and a lifestyle family medicine physician in Ann Arbor. But those of you who have been here before know this already. Those of you who are new, I want you to know you are all invited to my 100th birthday party. It's going to be a big shindig. Let me tell you, for my 50th, it was warm-up. I was born in Hawaii. So we had hula dancers, we had a tiki bar, we had a mechanical surfboard in the family room. We had it all, but that was just warm up. The 100th was going to be even bigger and better. And I don't want you there in a wheelchair either. Some of you are going to be over 100 by that time. It's somewhere around 2055. And some of you will only be spry little 70-year-olds though. But all of you better take care of yourselves well in order to be there and in style. So PBNSG is part of your ticket to that. We so appreciate Paul and the team for bringing us together, for providing this kind of support to community members like no other organization provides. As Paul also mentioned, as head of our lifestyle medicine division at IHA, centered in Ann Arbor, I'm working to educate the over 200 providers in our group and others across the country through seminars and others about the benefits of plant-based nutrition. I also, as Paul mentioned, in May made the move from a family physician taking care of over 1,500 patients to just a smaller panel of lifestyle medicine only, working with a team of a health coach, exercise physiologist, plant-based nutritionist to help people in a more customized manner. So if you want more info on that, we've got flyers out at the table there, but enough about me. Let's move on to our star of the show tonight. To do so, I want to back up to 1977. I was in medical school at the time, and I read a book called Diet for a Small Planet by Francis Moore Lappé. It was the 70s. It was the ecology movement. Earth Day was invented in that decade. We got the bottle bill. And it just spoke to me. It said, why are we feeding all this food to animals first, wasting 13-fold times the energy and nutrition, only to get outcomes that were less good? I then read a book called Animal Liberation by Peter Singer about the abhorrent conditions on our modern factory farms, which have only gotten worse since the time. Now, as a medical student, I still had to, though, study and make sure I wasn't going to die of protein malnutrition, which was kind of what they were teaching us in med school. I found out that even that was a win. So I had a triple win, better for the earth, better for the animals, better for me. And I was all in. There's only one problem. The best education for plant-based nutrition at the time were handouts at the co-op. How to win an argument with a meat eater. Remember that one? just wasn't much out there. And then, as I was starting my practice in solo family medicine at the time in 1985, I started to get snail mail. Yes, that's all there was at the time, for those of you not old enough to know, from an organization called PCRM in Washington, D.C. And once again, it spoke to me. I said, wow, this is what I've been looking for, an evidence-based approach to healthy nutrition with educational aids and information. I went ahead and joined. I started ordering literature, which I handed out to my patients, who greatly appreciated this kind of approach, this assistance. And I come to know that this organization was the brainchild of now my friend and colleague, Dr. Neal Barnard, who was also a young activist, plant-based physician, thinking much the way I was about how we were going to help not only our patients, but to change the world in a way that would be for much the better. Well, in 1985, Dr. Barnard and I were just young physicians, but he went on to accomplish so much over the next several years. And Dr. Sri Stanczyk's book asks, what's missing from medicine? Well, Dr. Barnard answered that question. He said, one thing is medical students need to know about this. He edited and publishes each year Nutrition Guide for Clinicians, and makes sure that every medical student in the country gets a copy of this. Because in medical school, they don't teach nutrition. And this is evidence-based nutrition that helps them to get a better education. He went on to author over 20 books, including Cheese Trap, Dr. Barnard's Power for Reversing Diabetes, helping to show through studies in his book that this was even possible. Educational CDs and materials. And his newest book, Power Foods, this was Power Foods for the Brain. Sorry, I'm overwhelmed with the number of books he has, over 20. And not only that, but he's the researcher. He's published over 100 articles in peer-reviewed medical journals about the science of healthy eating and nutrition. So we're so pleased to have him here. He's done 4 PBS shows. He's been a featured speaker at conferences. In fact, he hosts and coordinates the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, where nearly 1,000 providers each year come from all over the world to Washington, D.C. to learn the latest in nutrition research and an evidence-based approach to this life-saving approach to care. So, Neal, we so appreciate all that you've done for the world of plant-based nutrition for health, and we welcome you up to give us your latest updates on what's going on in the plant-based world. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here, and I want to say a huge thank you to Brett and Marion and Brian and Joel and Bob and Sari, and especially Paul Chatlin for his incredible leadership. Can we give them a hand again? Right. Okay, I'd like to talk about an issue that's troubling so many people, and that's how do you get rid of unwanted weight? And the old-fashioned approach says you stand on the scale and it's not looking very friendly, so I've got to get out my calorie chart and my food scale and just eat less. And we learned a long time ago that that doesn't really work very well. The weight comes back, and along with it comes a lot of discomfort and shame. And that's really kind of fallen away. And the next step really said, well, let's look at food patterns. What are people just eating from day to day? And we learned quite some time ago that when people follow more plant-based diets, they tend to have a much easier time getting rid of unwanted weight. And the more plant-based you get, the better it is. But today, I want to go a step further, which is that certain foods are much better than others for weight loss. And I want to give some credit to our friends at Harvard University, who did a really cool study back in 2015. They looked at more than 100,000 people, and they found that the more they ate of certain specific foods, the more weight they lost. And it's the opposite of what you'd think. You'd think if I eat more of anything, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, if I eat more, I've got to at least gain something. Not what they found. What they found is that the more they ate of certain foods, the more weight they would lose. And it became clear that that's because these foods would tend to satisfy the appetite a little sooner so that you would eat less of bad stuff, or they might increase your metabolism so that you're burning calories more effectively, and we'll get into all that in a little bit. The top of the list of the weight loss foods was the humble, unassuming blueberry. And blueberries, well, I'll come back to why. Yeah, it was not just blueberries, but also strawberries, and even blueberries in a muffin, as long as you don't put in 2 tablespoons of butter to ruin them. But berries were at the top of the list. In a minute, I'll tell you why we think that is. The blue in a blueberry is anthocyanins. This will be on the test. And anthocyanins come in various colors. There are the blue ones in blueberries. There are red ones in strawberries. The autumn leaves have orange ones. And this is nature's painting box. They're antioxidants, and they seem to increase the metabolism just a little bit. Don't eat the leaves, but the rest you can. So that, at Harvard, that was just an association. People who ate more of these things tend to lose weight. So 2 years later, researchers in the UK did an amazing thing. They recruited 2,734 women, all of whom were part of twin pairs. And everyone got a DEXA scan where you measure the body composition, and they found that the twin that had the highest anthocyanin intake had substantially less body weight and specifically less abdominal fat than her genetically identical sister. So you're taking the genetics out of it, and it's entirely environment, and you could see this in this anthocyanin effect. Now, it wasn't just berries. Berries were a big part of it, but also that red blush on a pear or grapes. There are anthocyanins in a lot of foods. Now, I would submit that these are things everybody knows about and likes and thinks are attractive, but they don't get into our shopping cart all that often or onto a kid's plate in school. They just know about these foods, but they kind of ignore them. And by the way, it's not just berries. Spices play a role as well. Jalapeno peppers, ginger, these tend to increase metabolism. And cinnamon contains a natural aldehyde. If you remember your high school chemistry, aldehydes are certain natural compounds. And when researchers found it in cinnamon, they couldn't really figure out what to name it. And researchers aren't necessarily so creative anyway, so the best they could come up with was cinnamaldehyde. But here's what happens. It increases your metabolism. And inside your intestinal tract, there is a receptor called the TRPA1 receptor. And it has been waiting there for hundreds of thousands of years, just hoping that you would have some cinnamon toast. And when you do, the cinnamaldehyde goes down your digestive tract, it attaches to that receptor, and that triggers the release of adrenaline, and that in turn raises your metabolism. Now, don't worry, it's not a huge effect, it's mild, so I don't have to peel you off the ceiling in an adrenaline high, but it's a notable effect. And there have been about 6 or 7 studies, randomized trials, looking at this. And this was a particularly good one. They brought in 116 people. They randomly assigned them to either a cinnamon group or a placebo. The cinnamon was in little capsules, and there were identical tan-colored capsules that didn't have cinnamon in it. And the amount they used was not difficult to do. It's about a teaspoon per day, but that's way more than your average cinnamon user ever has. You have a little bottle of cinnamon that's been on the back of your kitchen cupboard for like 4 or 5 years. I think, well, 1 year I'll use that up. We tend to know it, that we like it, but we don't use that much of it. Over a 16-week period, they discovered that although the placebo group didn't lose a significant amount of weight, the cinnamon group lost about 7.5 pounds. And now when we see these kinds of things, for me as a doctor and as a writer, I'm always looking, is this funded by the American Cinnamon Council? Because there's a lot of nonsense in the world of research, and you've got to kind of look at it and see what's real. So this will not be on the test, but I want to just show you how we try to sort this out. This is what we call a forest plot, and every horizontal line is a different study. And that big vertical line in the middle is, if the study result is on that line, that means you didn't see any weight loss. If it was to the right of the line, then you saw weight gain, and there's nobody over there. If it's to the left of that line, that means that people lost weight, and pretty much every study shows that. So we started thinking, okay, at least we're seeing consistency and we've got a mechanism, so we could feel good about it. Okay, jalapeno peppers. If you were ever at a Mexican restaurant and the cook was a little overly exuberant with the jalapenos, you may have discovered the effect of capsaicinoids. That's what makes them hot. And researchers discovered that they increase your metabolism. Now, they also reduce appetite just a little bit. And you should see the way this research is done. The researchers give you hot peppers, and then while you are sweating and your head's about to explode, they stick a thermal probe in your ear. These kinds of things you use in pediatrics to measure core temperature. And the body temperature just goes right up. They induce thermogenesis. So you are just taking calories and letting them go in the atmosphere instead of absorbing them. And it works with fresh jalapenos, any kind of hot pepper, or pickled ones. But it does not work with a bell pepper, because a bell pepper is healthy and has vitamin C and good crunch, but it's not hot. So it doesn't have the capsaicinoids that get this done. Okay, so anyhow, I got excited about this because for years I've been talking about, it's good to not eat meat and not eat cheese and not eat oils and things like that. But now what we're discovering is there are foods that you want to eat. You want to bring them in. And we call these power foods. So I worked with Dustin Harder and Lindsay S. Nixon, who are just the greatest recipe developers. And we sat down and we made a list of all the foods that have been shown to be power foods. And we started figuring out what the recipes should be like. And we wanted them to be simple, quick, familiar, and things that people who were even a little bit allergic to being in the kitchen could do. And so Dustin said, okay, blueberries. Let me make you a blueberry syrup. And then Lindsay said, well, I can make you cinnamon French toast, and let's put it together. We've got two power foods in America's favorite breakfast, and it's a weight loss French toast. And then Dustin said, well, let me make a sorbet. And these are the whole ingredients in the whole thing. Very simple, very natural, and you just put them in a bowl, and you take your immersion blender, and you go, and then when it's all blended, you put it in the freezer put a little saran wrap over the top, a little plastic, so that ice crystals don't form. It comes out just so delicate with a natural sweetness, not a chemical kind of sweetness, because it comes from natural ingredients, very, very simple. And then Dustin got a little carried away. He started thinking about kids who might be 8 or 10 and wanting junk. And so here's what he made. These are all the ingredients in the blueberry pops. This is all of it. And you blend them down. And you know that part of the store where they have can openers and measuring cups, and in the larger grocery stores, they also sell popsicle molds. Or you can also do this in like an ice cube tray. You just blend it down, put it in the molds, put a little stick in there, and then when the kids come by expecting junk, you can give them something that will make their eyes pop because it's purple, but everything in it is something that you feel good about, and you can give them a couple to take home to their parents. So this is the book that we wrote, the Power Foods Diet. And Dustin also did the photography, and when he sent it to me, I said, Dustin, this is about 2 inches away from food porn. And Dustin said, yeah, that's the idea. People think of a healthy diet as deprivation. But this is exactly the opposite. It's fun foods. It's foods that you want to eat. Foods that if you serve them to friends, they'd be glad. They'd ask you for the recipe. So let's go back. Berries, number 1. At Harvard, cruciferous vegetables were number 2. The second leading weight loss group. And you know about the cruciferous vegetables already, right? Because they're cancer fighters. That's broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. And then number 3 is the green leafy vegetables. And that's things like spinach and mustard greens and chard and even lettuce. Now, people badmouth iceberg lettuce. But look, it's doing its best. It's trying. So there's nothing bad about iceberg lettuce. It's okay. Group number 4 is melon. And quick tip, when you buy a cantaloupe, there is something about the human spirit that doesn't let us do anything with the cantaloupe. We just put it on the counter, and like the next day it's still there. And on day 3, it's starting to shrivel and get little dents. And day 4, we're saying, I wonder if this is still good. And you know, don't do that. What you do is take out a sharp knife, take 90 seconds and just cut it up, and put it in the cold museum. And so then when your family comes over and they open the door and they're looking like, what's there to eat? Instead of junk, they're going to get this. And it's bite-sized, and they can't resist putting it in a little bowl and having some. By the way, that orange color, beta-carotene, and we see that foods that have that color tend to be associated with weight loss also. It's a powerful antioxidant as well. But if you think of cantaloupe, if you think of sweet potatoes, carrots, mangoes, papayas, they all have beta-carotene. They're all associated with this. Lycopene is the red color in watermelon, also in tomatoes. Same story, associated with weight loss. Could that be because it's mostly water and fiber and doesn't have a lot of calories? Sure, I'm sure that's part of it as well. Okay, group number 5 was citrus fruits, and this is grapefruit, it's oranges, it's however you use any kind of citrus fruits. And group number 6 is the group that grandparents knew all about, but kids today might not recognize, and that's a bean. Beans, peas, lentils, the legume group in general, including soy products. Soy products, you know, let me say a word about soy. Did any of you hear this urban myth that soy might cause cancer? Let me see hands. Okay, let me see hands of people who think that might be correct. Okay, well, just in case, the backstory is soybeans contain isoflavones with names like genistein, daidzein, glycine. They do attach to estrogen receptors. That freaked out researchers because in a woman's body, the estradiol her body makes attaches to estrogen receptors. And if you got high levels of it, you got a higher risk of breast cancer. So people started to say that soybeans might cause breast cancer, except that the research didn't turn out that way. Huge studies, many of them show that women consuming the most soy, whether it's tofu or edamame or soy milk or soy bacon, have about 30% less risk of breast cancer and less risk of dying of cancer if you had a cancer diagnosis. Soy helps you survive, and for men, less risk of prostate cancer. You know, soy is a cool thing. It's also very versatile. You know, they make soy sausage and whatnot out of it. You know, one day they'll make snow tires out of soy. It's amazing, but it's perfectly fine. Okay, so power foods work by either taming the appetite or trapping calories or boosting your metabolism. I just want to walk you through this really quickly. Appetite taming. Quiz. How many calories are there in a gram of fat? 9? Are we sure? That's right. How many calories are there in a gram of carbohydrate? 4. And in fiber, there's basically none or almost none. Okay, so you hear people, we could put this fact to work. My group of Killjoy researchers wanted to see what would happen if people go on a Mediterranean diet versus a vegan diet. And a Mediterranean diet is good in many ways. It's got fruits, it's got vegetables, it's got some chickpeas and beans in it, which is great, but it also has chicken in it, chicken fat, 9 calories per gram. It's got some fish in it, fish fat, 9 calories per gram. It's got olive oil, 9 calories per gram. Okay, so here's what we did. We brought in 62 people, they all wanted to lose weight, and we randomly assigned them to a Mediterranean diet or a vegan diet. After 16 weeks, we asked them to stop and begin the opposite diet. And let me show you, so everybody did both for 16 weeks each. And let me show you what happened to their weight. As the people began the Mediterranean diet, at first they thought this is really cool, you know, because it's very indulgent. I'm eating all kinds of food. It's like I'm living on the coast of Tuscany. Isn't this wonderful? But when does the weight loss begin? They weren't losing much weight. And the vegan group said, well, I guess going vegan doesn't mean you need to acquire a taste for folk music. And I'm losing weight really well. And then at 16 weeks, we said, stop, take 4 weeks off. Now, do the opposite diet. And the people who had been doing Mediterranean and now started the vegan diet, the weight started to come off. And they said, great, this is why I joined this study. But the people who had been on the vegan diet and were now required to do the Mediterranean diet became the angriest group of research participants we have ever had, because they said, first of all, I've lost my taste for greasy stuff. It's amazing. Have some of you experienced this? If you haven't had chicken wings, you just kind of don't care anymore about that stuff. And we're now making them eat these foods. They're putting on weight that they had gotten rid of, and they couldn't wait for the study to be over, actually. Okay, so Mediterranean diet is better than the diets many people follow, but it is not effective for weight loss. Vegan diet is very effective for it. And the reason is not rocket science. On a Mediterranean diet, you're eating a lot of greasy stuff, and so your calorie intake goes down. On a vegan diet, you're not, and your calorie intake drops. Very simple. Now, a Mediterranean diet is also no good for lowering cholesterol. That's total cholesterol on the left, LDL. You know LDL, bad cholesterol? On the right, a Mediterranean diet just doesn't do it. And I really think it's a mistake that many cardiologists and other physicians say, well, you could do vegan, you could do Mediterranean, they're about the same, but a Mediterranean diet is easier. It just doesn't have anything like the effectiveness of a plant-based diet. But let me throw one point that was good. The Mediterranean diet actually did lower, in our study, blood pressure more than a vegan diet did. I don't know why, but I will speculate that it's from polyphenols in the olive oil, perhaps. Could be. So it's not all bad. Okay, so that was appetite taming. If we eat plant-based foods, they're high in fiber, high in complex carbohydrates, that tames the appetite with relatively few calories, easy to do. Now, calorie trapping is this wild thing. You eat some beans, or some vegetables, or some fruit. There's fiber, roughage in that food, and you're chewing it up, and you're making a million tiny little fiber sponges that go down your digestive tract, and the fiber picks up calories you haven't absorbed yet. And it carries them down your intestinal tract, so you can't absorb them, and they go out with the waste. And you literally flush calories down the toilet. And so researchers at Tufts University did something that my research team is never going to do. They took stool samples from 90 people. They published this in, yes, they did. And they asked them then to either eat white bread for 6 weeks or whole grain bread for 6 weeks. What's the difference? The difference is just fiber in the whole grain bread. And so what they found is that you could knock off about 100 calories per day just from that change alone. Not huge, but we're adding it up. We're doing the metabolism, the appetite taming, the calorie trapping, and, oh, by the way, it doesn't have to be bread. Bread is a great thing, but there is fiber in a lot of foods. It's in all fruits, it's in vegetables, it's in beans, it's in whole grains. Okay, so metabolism boosting is number 3. And your body has an interesting effect. I'm sure you've been wondering about this question all day, haven't you? What's the difference between you and a crocodile? What do you think? Look at that face. Okay, when she's chilly, she has to find a sunny spot. And she has to lie there and let the sun hit her back. And she absorbs the heat from the sun because she's cold-blooded. She can't make body heat. You are not cold-blooded. Well, now I have to say that during a political year, when I'm in Washington, D.C., I do have to change the wording of this talk a little bit, but this audience, I'm going to say, is not cold-blooded, which is to say that you could turn food into body heat wherever you are. So here's how it works. You come into my laboratory, sit down in a chair. I put a mask over your nose and mouth. I'm measuring your oxygen intake and your carbon dioxide output. And with some really simple arithmetic, I can tell you how fast you're burning calories, minute by minute. Okay, which is, it's 6:30 in the morning. You're still in your pajamas. You just came in and you haven't eaten breakfast. And then I give you breakfast and your metabolism will rise as you're absorbing nutrients. Now, butter gives you nothing. It doesn't increase your metabolism at all. It just stays flat. So our research team started looking into this. And here's what we did. We brought in 64 women, all after the age of menopause, all moderately to severely overweight, all wanting to change their diet. And we randomly assigned them to either a low-fat vegan diet or a conventional diet that was drawn from the National Cholesterol Education Program. Chicken, fish, take the skin off your chicken, that kind of stuff. That was the control group. We asked them not to change their exercise habits, and it was a 14-week trial. So our participants, I have to say, were horrified when we showed them the foods that they would be eating, because they said, "Are you serious? We're going to eat blueberry pancakes and vegetable chili and linguine and toast and all these carbs and all these calories, and there's no limit on portions, no limit on calories, no limit on carbohydrate. We're going to gain a ton of weight." And week 3 of the study, one of the participants said, "Dr. Barnard, Twizzlers are vegan." And it's true. We said, there's 2 rules. No animal products, keep oils low. How you interpret this is up to you. And as time went on, they ate more carbohydrate in the vegan group compared to the conventional group. And their fat intake dropped in both groups, but especially the vegan group. And their body weight dropped 13 pounds in 14 weeks in the plant-based group, and only about 8 in the conventional group. Okay, so what have we found so far? That you don't have to worry about portions or calories or carbohydrates or counting things if you're making a qualitative shift to a diet drawn from plants. Now, ideally, it's not based on Twizzlers and junk, but I got to tell you, getting away from animal products is a really good thing to do almost no matter how you do it. And then from there, you can refine your diet more. But we wanted to take one more step, or 2 more steps. The first is we followed the participants for another 2 years and found that on the vegan diet, the weight never came back. On the comparison diet, it did. But then we looked at everybody's calorie burning speed. Everyone came into our office, put on the mask. We then checked their metabolism and gave them a specific test meal with 720 calories, and we watched their metabolism go up as they're absorbing the nutrients. Then they went vegan. 14 weeks later, they came back in, sat in the same chair, put on the same mask, and ate the very same test meal, and their metabolism was now 15% higher than it was before. Now, we did this first in 2005. We repeated this in 2020. The American Medical Association published it in JAMA Network Open. There it is. This is real stuff. So why? All right, fasten your seatbelts. I just want to walk you through a little serious science for about 2 minutes. This is a cell. Let's call this a muscle cell. I stick a needle in your bicep. I pull out one cell. That's it. It's got mitochondria inside. Remember that from high school biology? Your mitochondria are your burners. They're little organelles inside the cell, and if they find some fuel, they burn it up and give you energy. But you also have fat inside the cell. Now, doctors hate words like fat, because it's only got 3 letters. So we will call it intramyocellular lipid. And we can bill for that. So that's important, because in our diabetes studies, the more of that you have, the more insulin resistant you get. And if I can take that out of your cells, I can sometimes make your diabetes go away. Okay, but I'm talking about weight loss for now. So here's what happens. I'm going to have some cheese pizza or some salmon or a pork chop or chicken fat. Your digestive tract is very clever. It pulls the fat out, goes into the blood, and some of it will enter a muscle cell. Some of it goes into body fat and elsewhere, but it goes right into the muscle cell. And see the fat little bits there? It starts expanding. And when that happens, the mitochondria can't work in an oil slick. They shut down. What we call mitochondrial biogenesis slows down. Your body's just not making the mitochondria like it's supposed to. You can't burn calories. Your experience is, now that I'm 50, my metabolism has slowed down. When I was 15, I could eat anything, but now I just look at food and I gain weight. It has nothing to do with your age. It has all to do with cheese pizza. It has to do with fat that gets inside and shuts down. So here's the moral of the story. Fat in your cells slows down your after-meal calorie burn. Great, fine. So here I am now. I'm not going to eat cheese pizza anymore. I'm going to eat beans and grains and all the wonderful things that those turn into, and there's not a lot of glop in my diet, and that fat starts to dissipate. It goes away. It's not going to be completely gone, but it significantly drops, and when that happens, your metabolism goes up. And we've seen this very predictably. So you get the fat out of your cells, you boost your after-meal calorie burn. Okay, so researchers in Louisiana at Pennington Biomedical Research Center did a cool study. They brought in individuals and they measured their mitochondrial biogenesis. How is your body making mitochondria? And they fed them a high-fat diet, and the white box is before they did the diet, the black box is after they had done the diet. Their mitochondrial biogenesis just shuts down. This happened in 72 hours. A fatty diet for 3 days has a major effect on every cell in your body. And the fat goes right in, shuts it down, and then it comes out only gradually. Your cells greedily hold on to that fat. So we don't want to fool around with this. We want to go on a low-fat diet and leave it that way. Okay, now some researchers in Virginia said, well, there's another thing here. And it could have to do with something called endotoxin. You have bacteria in your gut. You know, the gut microbiome. Some of those bacteria are not so friendly, and others of them think you're cool and are nice to you. But the ones that are not so friendly make a toxin that's called endotoxin, and as long as it sits in your intestinal tract, it's not doing much harm. But the endotoxin can slip from the digestive tract into your bloodstream and start poisoning your cells in mild ways. So the researchers at Virginia Tech hypothesized that a high-fat diet disrupts the intestinal barrier, so things get into your bloodstream that wouldn't otherwise get through. So that's going to cause the endotoxin to get into your blood. Or maybe as fat is being absorbed, maybe that actually escorts the endotoxins in. Either way, I've got this endotoxin in my blood, and that is disrupting my cellular metabolism and slowing down my calorie burn. So that's the theory. Is it true? Here's what they did. Gave volunteers a high-fat diet for 5 days. And what they showed, first of all, this is the amount of endotoxin in their blood, bang, goes right up, okay? So part one is true. When people are on high-fat diets, your gut becomes much less discriminating, and it starts letting poisons ride in. Okay, so then the next thing is that before, the 2 bars on the left, before they went on the high-fat diet, pre-high-fat diet, when you gave them a meal challenge, they could oxidize those calories. They could burn them right up. Then, the 2 bars on the right, that's after they've been on this high-fat diet. Any given meal, they just can't metabolize it very well. You don't get a big oxidation. You're just shutting down your mitochondria, okay? So the bottom line is fat is not a good thing for cellular metabolism. Okay, so the point is to take foods that have power and make them fun, like wild blueberry muffins or overnight oats, things for people who either have time to cook or things that for people who don't have time to cook. And we had so much fun with this, and we came up with about 130 recipes, and some of them are easy, some of them are easier than easy. You're just made with convenience foods, and some are a little elegant. But there are also foods that we're going to warn you about, because there are some things that are a lot worse than others for weight loss. And number one, I'm going to say, is salmon. Because you will have friends saying, well, you eat salmon, right? I mean, salmon, that's a good thing. We could say very knowledgeably, here's why I don't eat that. Atlantic salmon is 40% fat. Chinook salmon is 52% fat. And that fat goes straight into your muscle cells, and your body says, I don't know what to do with this. And in our research studies, if we see people where their weight loss has just stopped, we just do a diet record and we look for things like this. And this will just kill weight loss. Okay, olive oil, coconut fat, they have different effects on cholesterol, but they have about the same effect on body weight. They both have 9 calories per gram. So it could be extra virgin olive oil directly from Italy at $45 a bottle, marked virgin. and it'll still interfere with weight loss. Now, let me say a few bad things about coconut fat. People are promoting coconut oil a lot because it's supposedly natural. What they're really saying is that it's something they can sell and it has a buttery mouthfeel. Same with palm oil. But if you look at the saturated fat, can you see these numbers? Coconut oil is 83% saturated fat. That's the one that's linked to high cholesterol and to Alzheimer's disease. Palm oil is about 50% saturated fat. Does it raise cholesterol? Yes, absolutely. Researchers have done meta-analyses, and this is LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol, goes up on, when you summarize the results, it's about a 10-point rise. And when you look at palm oil, same story. It used to be you could get a jar of peanut butter that was made from peanuts. Now they think, well, it'll have a more buttery flavor, be more spreadable if we throw a bunch of palm oil in there. If you see that on the label, don't buy it. Because not only is it fattening, but it's also going to raise your cholesterol level. Okay. Now, there are appropriate uses of coconut oil and palm oil. Let me describe them. You can make a candle. You could shine your shoes. You can wax your car, or you could put it in your hair. Those are appropriate and will not hurt you. Okay, let me now share, in the Power Foods diet, I wanted to share the experiences of some real life people that we've gotten to know and have worked with us. And this is Shawnee, who grew up in Kansas City. And Shawnee came from a family where she says there was a lot of food in our household, but it was not necessarily the healthiest food. And her mother had a lifelong weight problem, and she went to a weight loss program every week. And when Shawnee was about 9 or 10, her mother said, "You need to come with me. You know, you've got some weight issues." When she was at 12, she was in classes with her mother. She was put on weight loss drugs. I mean, what does it mean when you're a 12, 13, 14-year-old child given a drug that makes you feel terrible, and you're also told you need to spend less time on your computer screens, you need to be exercising more, you need to do this, you. That you memorize all these lines that there's something wrong with you. I want to tell you something, there was nothing wrong with her. There's something wrong with our food environment that many of us live in and have been told was normal or traditional or healthy or whatever. She learned what you know, which is there are certain foods that love you back. And when you start bringing these into your routine, you feel better. And she started noticing that she could lose weight by changing the types of foods that she ate. And she started doing a plant-based diet, and she felt better and better and better. And she started to get her self-confidence back. And she sent me this picture. She's lost well over 100 pounds. And she then said, "Hey, Mom, you know, you tried to help me out by helping me to lose weight as best you could. But I want to help you out because I've learned a way that's so much easier and more fun." Okay, I want to tell you about Steve Loam. Do some of you know Dr. Steve Loam? Steve Loam's a cardiologist, really cool guy. Steve Loam was running a half marathon in Monterey, California. And it's like 13 miles and change. And he's running down the marathon, or half marathon track. And in front of him is a runner who's fallen down on the pavement. And Steve goes over and says, "Are you okay?" Unresponsive. "Are you okay?" Totally unresponsive. He doesn't have a pulse. He's dead, effectively. Now, Steve says, I'm going to try CPR. Let's see if we can get a pulse. And he yells out for somebody, "Call 911, I need a defibrillator." They do. Eventually, they get a defibrillator while Steve is pumping on his chest. They pull out the pads, they stick them on the guy's chest, they shock him, they shock him, they shock him, they get a pulse. They put the man in the ambulance, they carry him off to the emergency room. Steve has saved this man's life. He then makes his way to the finish line. And there at the finish line is another man lying down on the ground, unresponsive. And Steve goes over, the guy's got no pulse. He's thinking, this can't be happening. I need a defibrillator. Same thing again. They put the pads on the guy's chest, they shock him, and miraculously, they get a pulse in him too. And so anyway, the reason this became well known is the Today Show heard about this amazing day when two guys were resuscitated in the course of a race. And by the way, the moral of the story is, if you're going to run a half marathon, have a cardiologist right behind you. So the Today Show brought them all together to reunite them. But what they didn't know is that Steve had already talked to these guys and said, you got to do a plant-based diet. I don't want to resuscitate you again next year. And so they did, and their lives were transformed. Now, but the reason I'm telling you this is not just that it's a cool story, but that Steve had issues of his own. When he was a young man, medical student, resident, fellow, practicing cardiologist, he was significantly overweight, as was everybody in his family, and he thought this is kind of the way it is. And he tried different ways to try to lose weight. He read the dietary guidelines for Americans that said eat less red meat, eat more white meat, take the skin off your chicken, da-da-da-da-da. That did not do a lot. He learned what Shanae learned, what you have learned, what many people have learned, is that a plant-based diet is a whole other thing to do. And so he started doing a plant-based diet. He lost more than 100 pounds, and he pushed this on his family members and said, let's do this together. And everybody started losing weight, and their health was transformed. And he became very fit and a great role model, and has helped us at the Physicians Committee to really push a healthful message. Okay, so if you were brought to this lecture by a friend, and you weren't too sure what you were getting into, by now you might be thinking, well, this sounds like a good thing, but I don't know if I could do it. I want to share with you how we do this in our research studies, where we've worked with thousands of people, or at the Barnard Medical Center, where we've worked with thousands more. I've never seen anyone unable to do it. In fact, it's relatively simple. What we say is, step one is 1 week. If you wanted to lose some weight or tackle diabetes, whatever, take 1 week and just check out the possibilities. What could I eat if I was doing a plant-based diet? And we ask patients to take a piece of paper home and to write down their ideas and come back a week later. And we give them ideas. Now they're going to say, okay, well, I don't do anything special. I just take a bowl of cereal and I put on some milk and that's it. Well, if it's almond milk or rice milk or soy milk, that's plant-based breakfast. Okay, if you like that, put it on your list. It's pretty simple. Okay, how about oatmeal? Yeah, that's okay. Can I put berries on top? Okay, now very good. Now that's a power food topping. Put that on the list. Okay, well, I like sausage, so I'm going to have sausage. Well, right next to the pork sausage, there is Morningstar sausage, 3 grams per serving. That's fine. Oh, by the way, quick tip. I'm staying at the Hampton Inn, and I went down to the breakfast bar yesterday, and I saw all these sausage patties, and I was looking, I was thinking, I wonder if they have any vegan ones. And I saw a little sign that said veggie patty. Everything in the whole bin was that. That's what they were serving, plant-based sausage at the Hampton Inn. So we're not getting any kickbacks from the restaurant chain. And I don't know that they do this everywhere, but the note to self is tell the hotel that you're staying in that this can work. We serve these in hospitals too. They work really well. Okay, now veggie sausage is very much like meat sausage in its taste and texture. Veggie bacon is sort of a liberal interpretation of the original. If you like it, put it on your list. And you'll find pancake mixes and waffle mixes. If you like them, they go on the list. If you don't like them, you don't write them down. So you're just trying different things. That's all you're doing, to see things that you would like. And including when you go out to eat. So you go out to your favorite Italian place, and yes, they can make you pizza without cheese or make an angel hair pasta. Instead of ground beef sauce, they'll put the arrabbiata sauce on. That's Italian for angry, but to a chef that means moderate spice. Or Latin American, beans and rice, veggie fajitas, bean burritos. Simple. Chinese, rice dishes, vegetable dishes, tofu dishes, lots of stuff. And extra points for Japanese because they also are pretty low on oil for almost all their dishes, as well as having lots of plant-based options. And now, Taco Bell is not the pinnacle of culinary art. Nonetheless, if that's where you are, then I'm going to say, how about not having the meat taco, maybe the bean burrito? Let's hold the cheese, Can I add some jalapenos? Sure. I mean, that's a power food. Okay, fine. So if that's your starting point, cool. Let's see where we go. Okay, so Hank comes back a week later. He says, I found a ton of stuff. And I said, do you like these things? Yeah, that's why I wrote them down. Okay, so step 2 is eat that food. That's it. That's it. For the next 3 weeks, do it all vegan, all the time, but it's the foods you already picked out that you like. They're already on your shelf, so eat that. And then we keep in touch with our patients every week because they'll have a question or a problem. Like I went to a restaurant and they gave me the wrong thing, or I'm traveling, or I'm going to a wedding. And people need a few tips on how to make this work in real life, which is why groups like this are so supportive, because they walk you through these challenges. And there's no challenge that you can't overcome it. At the end of 3 weeks, 2 things have happened. First of all, people have a physical transformation. They're losing weight, their blood sugar is coming down, they're feeling better. But the second thing is their tastes and feelings about foods have transformed. There's something about 21 days where your tastes for greasy junk just kind of disappear. And then you can kind of take it from there. So we've got lots of tools for people. We have an app that's in English and Spanish, 21-Day Vegan Kickstart. It's free. It's on your Android or your iPhone. And this is our team. Dustin and Lindsay helped me out a whole lot, and this is our book that we're hoping people might take a look at. And I just want to end with 2 things. The first thing I want to say is a huge thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to your whole team. And thank you to all of you, because when you learn about healthful foods and you tell somebody else about it, you'll inspire them. They'll try out something new, something different. If you're on social media, you'll reach people you've never even seen. You put a recipe or a food photo on Instagram, it's like throwing a rock into a pond, and the ripples go out, and you'll reach people, you'll inspire people, you'll educate people that you've never even met. And 1 or 2 of them, you're going to transform their lives. You're going to save their lives. So I want to thank all of you for being part of this movement that's changing the world we live in. So thank you for that. And before I end, Paul, before I bring you up, can I do one more thing? Before I bring you up, can I do one more thing? Okay. I just want to share something else with you, if I can make this work. When I was about 5 years old, I grew up in Fargo, and my parents had 5 kids, and my little brother David was being tucked into bed by my mom. And she said, "Nighty-night, Dave, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite." She turned off the light. He couldn't sleep. Bed bugs, insects. She planted this image in his mind. And anyway, I remember thinking, what do we do with kids? We say things like, cut off their tails with a carving knife. Or Jack and Jill went up the hill, and then apparently Jack had a neurological injury on the way down. And we plant terrible ideas in kids' heads. And around 2020, things got out of hand because the pandemic came in. And kids knew that people were dying. And overnight, kids were pulled out of school. So they then lost their ground. It means a lot to a kid to have a social group of your friends, and suddenly they're not there anymore. And their parents were worried, how am I going to take care of you and work? And everybody was in a bit of turmoil, and kids could pick up on that. And they were kind of stressed out. And I have to say, I think we are, I'm part of a musical group called Carbon Works that some of you might have seen. It's, the name comes from the fact that we are made of carbon, and these are our works, and we got great musicians from all around the world, and you'll see us on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel, and we're on Spotify, and on Amazon you'll see our albums and everything else. But what I'm getting at is I wrote a song that tries to say to kids, at that time, tried to say, I know this world is pretty crazy, and there's tough, stressful things. And I don't want to lie to you to say that everything's going to be great, because I don't know that. Our bodies are fragile. Things go wrong in life, and life often ends tragically. But for right now, for just tonight, things are okay. So that's what this is about, and I feel that now is a time where our world is getting torn apart a bit. If you turn on the TV for 5 minutes, you will see anger and hatred that is, in my view, maybe a little bit unprecedented.
We're going to do some Q&A. So here's how we're going to do it. Brett and I are going to run around. Raise your hand. We'll try and knock out as many as we can in about 15 minutes. And then we're going to ask everyone to leave, sorry. And we'll do it again next year. Okay, but Dr. Neal's going to be out there signing his book. And I guess my last parting words are, once again, thank you so much. So any questions? Let's start. Okay, so I'm going to get over there. This is, bless you. Stand up, please.
Brett?
I hand you the mic.
Oh, never mind. Oh, no, never mind, we're fine.
Yeah, hi. My question for this evening is, what is a good cooking oil?
What is a good
Cooking oil.
What's a good cooking oil? Okay, that's a good question, a question that many people have. Who wants to answer that question?
I'd like to.
Okay, all right. Who wants to answer that question?
Yeah.
Go ahead. None? Wait a minute. None, no oil. How do you cook without oil? You saute
Vegetable broth.
Vegetable broth, water, okay. And does it work? Okay. Can I get a good non-stick pan? Will that help? That'll work? Okay. Try it out. It's a lighter taste, but you'll discover that it works really well.
Yeah, and you know what else? I like to slowly simmer onions if the recipe calls for it, and that works wonderful. And if you're having a spunky day, a little bit of wine would be okay. All right? All right, we got a question back here. Brett, you got somebody there? Okay.
Hey. Dr. Barnard, loved that video and the song was wonderful right here.
Oh, thank you.
I have a quick question about what's your thoughts about protein powders, sugar-free, pea protein, organic, for health?
So the question is protein powder a good idea? Well, what do you think? Protein powder a good idea? Bad idea? You know, if it's an animal-based protein powder, I would avoid it for obvious reasons. There was a 2016 study that came out of Harvard that was a really cool study. Up until that point, people had said that animal protein has to be better than plant protein. It's got all the essential amino acids, and it's a better balance, and so forth. But they asked the question, if it's better, if it's a more complete protein, what's the health advantage? And so they looked at a huge population of people, and they found that if people if they got their protein from animal sources, we're not thinking about fat or cholesterol, just the protein source from animals, their mortality was higher than if they had gotten protein from plants. And they calculated that if you would switch from animal protein to plants, your mortality would go down, no matter if it was getting away from dairy, getting away from fish, any kind of animal protein. So the reason I mention this is there are a lot of bodybuilders out there who are getting animal-based, whey powder and all that kind of stuff. I would avoid it completely. Now, if it's plant-based, I don't know of any reason that it's going to be harmful. I don't think that it's necessary because when we look at the protein that you're getting, it's going to be adequate. Yeah.
Hello. 2 questions. The first question is, in the studies that you referenced for a high-fat diet, what was the definition of high fat? Just interested in perhaps percentage of calories. The second question I have is that I have binged on health videos over the last several years and been inundated with the benefits of polyphenol in extra virgin $48 olive oil. And so I really want to understand if you can encapsulate why my brain is like spaghetti right now with the idea that it's not good for me. In a nutshell, thank you so much.
Sure, well, 2 good questions. In the studies that I referenced at Pennington and in Virginia, in Pennington it was a 50% fat diet, I believe, and in Virginia it was 55% calories from fat. So that's a lot. That was done for research purposes, and that's somewhat higher than your average American is going to consume, but not out of the range of what some people will consume. But that said, if a person is getting, say, 25% of their energy from fat, not that you would know, but if we measured it, and you go and you increase, you'll discover that it tends to interfere with the things I was describing. Now, polyphenols. Mother Nature invented olives, and the olives grow on a tree, and the tree doesn't have a faucet. So if you want to get olive oil, you take 10,000 olives and you scrunch them together and you throw away all the fiber and all the pulp and you concentrate the oil in the same way as you can do the same thing with sugar cane, where you throw away all the fiber and you concentrate the sugar. So extra virgin olive oil, or any kind of olive oil, is a highly, highly refined product. They don't want to call it that, but that's what it is. I mean, you're throwing away the rest of the plant. So polyphenols, you're right, they're great for you, but they come in a natural package with a balance of macronutrients. If you try to concentrate them in a lipid delivery system, you're going to discover that it really makes weight loss tough. So that's the idea. Sure. Great question.
Hi. Maybe I missed it, but you didn't say anything about nuts and seeds, and that's something that is kind of tricky for me.
Nuts and seeds? Yeah, nuts they're a good source of vitamin E, same with seeds, and you need some vitamin E, and I would argue that for a person who's thin and healthy and doesn't have diabetes or hormonal issues, that having maybe an ounce or so of nuts a day is a good thing, and an ounce is the amount that if you pour sunflower seeds or almonds into your hand, if you stop once it hits your fingers, that's an ounce. The problem is that manufacturers take them and put smokehouse flavoring on them, which is irresistible to human beings, and so we eat one handful and another and another and another, and the calories just mount up because nuts are extremely fatty. When we're dealing with weight issues or reversing diabetes or dealing with hormonal issues, which is a total another talk, but we need to get the fat out of the diet. In those cases, we really set them aside while the person is trying to detoxify themselves.
Yes, I'm kind of confused about the protein should a person have, depending on the age, how much they weigh, what should the right protein for an adult?
I'm sorry, is the question how much protein do you need?
Yes.
Well, the federal government would say that an average person needs about 50 grams per day. The actual numbers, if you knock it out, are based on weight and activity, and it would work out for an average woman to be about 46 grams per day, for a man about 56 grams, more if you're physically active. But it's really easy to get that from food, and you could do this as a test. There is protein in foods you wouldn't think have protein, like broccoli. It's got vitamins, right? It's got fiber. Protein? Well, let's say you consume a 2,000 calorie a day diet, which is a pretty good average. If you ate, as an experiment, nothing but broccoli for a day, nothing but broccoli, would you get protein? Would you get 46 grams of protein? You would get 146 grams of protein from broccoli. Don't do that. You need a variety of foods. Let's say the next day you do lentils, and all you eat all day is lentils. 2,000 calories of lentils has 157 grams of protein. So what if the next day you say, well, I'll have some lentils, and some broccoli, and some rice, and some plants, and you'll start to realize why a bull or a stallion or a rhinoceros or an elephant gets huge muscles from plants. There you go. Okay.
Doctor, what would your comment be about this nation's adults and youth insatiable appetite and intake of pizza with cheese?
When I was a kid growing up, pizza was not, it kind of hadn't really arrived yet, but it became a big thing. In 1909, the USDA started tracking cheese intake in Americans. And in that year, the average American ate 3.8 pounds of cheese per year. 3.8. Today, we're at about 40 pounds per person per year. And I'm not eating any, so someone's getting Double that. But cheese is addictive, and I'm not using that word lightly, and it's addictive for a couple reasons. If you look at foods that people really tend to have trouble saying no to, they're often salty, greasy foods like French fries or potato chips or onion rings. The combination of salt and grease lights up your neurology. You can also do this with sugar. People say, I'm a sugar addict. You are not. I bet. Many of you think I'm a sugar addict, right? Did you ever buy a box of Domino sugar and just sit in your bedroom with a spoon? No, you didn't. What you did was you went to the store and you got a cookie or candy, which is a mixture of sugar and fat, which is much more addicting than the sugar alone. So, cheese is 70% fat, and it has more salt in it than potato chips. 2 ounces of potato chips, 330 milligrams of sodium. 2 ounces of cheddar, 350. 2 ounces of brie, 500. 2 ounces of Velveeta, 800 milligrams of salt. Kids get hooked on that. But the real big thing is that dairy protein, casein, C-A-S-E-I-N, casein, the casein protein that's in dairy, in milk, when it arrives in the calf's stomach, it gets cleaved into individual amino acids and some peptides that are biologically active. They're called casomorphins because they have morphine-like activity. They're derived from casein. They go into the calf's brain, attached to the very same receptor that a narcotic drug would attach to. And so when you turn milk into cheese, you concentrate the casein, which is why cheese is more addicting than milk. And people get hooked on it, and they say, it may smell like old socks, but I really love this stuff. And I don't think you need any other explanation for the obesity epidemic that we have now.
Hi. Do you have any recommendations for people who they eat a lot of vegetables, they tend to get bloated, want to, but the problem is the body just kind of bloats up with that?
You said that a person who eats vegetables, but their digestive tract is not happy about it?
Right, correct. Yeah,
okay.
So bloats up right away, like a salad, bloat up.
Sure. Everybody's a little bit different. It's useful to see if you can identify which vegetable it might be. For example, people often do really well with, say, they're eating rice and certain grains, doesn't do it. But with cruciferous vegetables like broccoli or cauliflower, if they're raw or not well cooked, they'll cause your stomach to go a little goofy. Beans, same story. There should be no al dente beans. You got to cook the bejesus out of them until they're really soft. And start small with them. If a person has looked at different foods and they find this continues, I suggest that a person go see a gastroenterologist who can treat them for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It just means you've got kind of maladaptive gut bacteria. And the treatment for it is a short course of antibiotics to knock those bacteria out. And then you discover your digestive tract just settles down. So anyway, gastroenterologists can sort this out. And they're going to ask you other questions like, do you drink carbonated beverages? Just try not doing that for a day and see what happens. And there are other quick tricks that people can do like that.
My first question was, in the study you talked about that certain foods increase your metabolic rate. Is it the area under the curve, or is it just a steeper increase and then it drops? And then my other question was...
Yeah, it's the area under the curve.
Area under the curve, okay. And the other thing was you talked about weight loss a lot, which I was a little confused about, because I would think that it'd be more important to talk about all-cause mortality, but because weight loss doesn't, people who are skinny, you don't necessarily live longer. So I was wondering why you concentrated on weight loss.
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's a really good point, because unwanted weight is just one of many issues, health issues that people have. I've written 21 books, and so my latest one deals with weight, and that's what I gave this talk. But the last time I was here, I was probably talking about hormones and related to cancer risk, and what we discover is that the same kind of diet that is good for weight is also good for hormonal issues, cardiovascular health, cancer prevention, diabetes. And you're absolutely right. All these are really important issues. And I hope you might get a chance to either look at our website, pcrm.org, or you can look at our other videos that do touch on those other issues because they're really important. Okay.
Hi. I have a couple of questions about food preparation styles, specifically roasting and burning, like roasting seeds or nuts and roasting broccoli. Does that change it, make it carcinogenic, affect the vitamin values?
It's a great question. If you take chicken and you grill chicken, or you just go to Burger King and get grilled chicken from Burger King or Applebee's or wherever, you send it to a laboratory. They will tell you, our research team did this. We went in the state of California to 7 or 8 different family restaurants and fast food restaurants and got grilled chickens, sent it to a laboratory. You find carcinogens in every single sample from every single grilled chicken outlet. When you cook skeletal muscle, that's chicken, that's beef, that's fish, carcinogens form. They're called heterocyclic amines, and they cause cancer. So researchers thought, what happens if I cook a veggie burger? And the answer is, it gets warm. The heterocyclic amines don't tend to form. And the same thing is, you got a backyard grill and you put hot dogs on it and the fat drips on the coals and the smoke comes up filled with a carcinogen called benzoapyrene. This is what comes from combustion of animal fat. So I keep thinking there's got to be something wrong with burning plants. After all, tobacco is a burnt plant. But I haven't so far seen any evidence that causes a health problem that has been identified. So it's good to be open-minded and eat foods in sort of a natural way as much as possible. But so far, we haven't seen the carcinogen formation.
And related question about microwaving. Does that affect the vitamin values or anything else?
When microwaves first became a big thing, I kept thinking there's got to be something wrong with this thing. And to this day, I wear a lead apron and I put my food into it and I run around the corner. But all the evidence that I've seen is that it's safe. Where are we? Okay.
Good evening, Doctor. A couple inquiries. You spoke about oils tonight, mainly virgin oil, whether it's regular virgin oil or extra virgin oil. Where is the place today with avocado oil? Where does that stand? Is that a no?
Avocado oil is just as attractive as olive oil and just as heavily marketed as a sexy product and just as fattening. It's loaded with monounsaturates in the same way that olive oil is. So it's not the saturated fat that would make it a waxy solid. It's a monounsaturated that makes it more liquid at room temperature and more solid if you put it in your fridge. So it's very much like olive oil and has the same effects. So if a person is skinny and healthy, I wouldn't worry about them having an avocado. But if a person says, I really want to conquer a weight problem or I want to reverse diabetes, I'm going to say now is not a time for a guacamole fest. Because it's the one fruit that didn't read the owner's manual about fruits. You know, all the others are really low in fat, and that's one is really, really high.
Then also,
I know I'm breaking your heart with this, I know. These are facts, like deal with it any way you want to.
Lastly, all my vegetables that I prepare are al dente, so I got lost in translation when you talked about making sure the beans are overcooked or really, really cooked.
There's nothing terribly unhealthy about, well, for the most part, about eating them without a huge amount of cooking, but for many people, they have digestive issues with that. And so in that case, I encourage people to really cook them until they're very, very soft. And you'll see this, if you get a can of chickpeas, some manufacturers sell them to you like little rocks in a can. Others of them have cooked them, in my view, a little bit more effectively, so that when you eat them, they're softer and easier on the digestive tract. But it's entirely up to you. And if you do okay with undercooked or less cooked things, that's perfectly fine.
Hi, doctor. Thank you. Just a quick question about menopausal weight gain. Any suggestions? It seems to be very real and hard to control.
Yeah, we completed a trial in 84 women who had gone through menopause. And the reason that we did this study, I don't think I presented it here because we hadn't done it yet. We did this during the pandemic. The reason we did it is that I wrote this book called Your Body in Balance. And I wrote about the fact that we can control hormones. Oh, there it is, okay. I got all excited about the fact that we can control hormones. You can control the amount of estrogen in your body. So I started looking at menopause. And I noticed that there's a literature on hot flashes related to diet. So we did a trial, and we found that we could knock out hot flashes, about 88%, by three things. A vegan diet, and when I say vegan, I mean no animal products. Really minimizing oils. It doesn't work if it's oily, but really minimizing oils, and having a half a cup of cooked soybeans per day. And in the course of this, we found that not only were the hot flashes gone, but people started really losing weight well. So we approach it in the same way as we approach weight issues in people who are not at that stage of life, which is not only avoid the animal products and the animal fat, but to avoid the vegetable oils too, and just kind of see what happens. And typically the effects are about the same.
All right, by the way, just so everyone knows, I'm really sorry, but we got time for 2 questions, and but we still got about a half an hour, so if you would kindly buy his Dr. Barnard's book, he'll sign it, you could whisper the question, he'll give you an answer. All right?
Hey, listen, this is a school night. I want to respect your time. Let's do the 2 questions, let's go outside, and go home and go to bed. You got families waiting for you, you know, so you don't have to stick around to talk about broccoli. You should go home and do other things.
Hi, Dr. Barnard.
Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Aside from the obvious excessive saturated fat, high cancer risk, what are your biggest arguments that you give to people who insist on carnivore diets and are even encouraged this type of diet by nutrition centers and maybe physicians that think that's the answer to I don't know what, but I just would like to hear your feedback and your counter arguments. I know there's many, but...
I'm sorry, the question is how can you help a person on the carnivore?
What is your biggest response to folks that are trying to use a carnivore diet for whatever reason on earth they might think that has benefit?
There are many different diets that people try. And I find that in many cases, people are quite committed to a dietary philosophy that they've adopted, very much like a religious feeling. And so I have discovered that they don't particularly want to hear all the reasons why their diet might be a long-term risk. So I tend to not confront those people individually, but I'm quite happy to guide them to resources that they may wish to look at. People are also right to be skeptical about anything, including a plant-based diet, because there's a lot of nonsense in the world of research and the world of food. And so a person says, wait, you're not going to eat animal protein at all, you're going to wither away. They're skeptical of that. And many people subscribe to this myth, a testosterone-driven myth, that our forebears were loincloth-clad men with spears, with abs that would qualify for getting on the cover of Men's Health. And that's kind of what some guys especially have wanted to aspire toward. And they're disappointed to discover that biologically they are not in the category of carnivores at all. That's cats. They are in the category of great apes. And great apes are largely or exclusively plant eaters. That's their thing. And so the risk of a carnivore diet. Now, there are some good things about it. I mean, they're not doing dairy for the most part. They've learned that's bad. Or the paleo people say, don't have dairy. That's a good decision to make. And they might be avoiding junk food because they heard that's bad. That's all good. The problem with it is that meat causes cancer. Meat causes cardiovascular disease, and meat contributes to Alzheimer's disease. And not to mention that if we have a slight conscience, we might discover that the animals we share the planet with are not so happy with the current situation, and we are destroying the planet under our feet. And at some point, it's not a bad idea to act on those impulses. When you say that to a person, they will gravitate toward their culture rather than logic. And they'll figure this out for themselves. I know that's not a very optimistic answer, but that's what we see.
Hi. Just wondering on your advice on as far as it's hard to eat organic all the time, and how unsafe are all the pesticides we have in our country?
Okay, that's a great question. I think it matters a little bit about what kind of food is it on. If it's on a banana or an orange, let's say they sprayed it with pesticides, well, you peel it, and you're not going to eat the banana peel or the orange peel. So there, I'm less worried about it. But if it's an apple, you're going to eat the peel probably, and if it's blueberries, I know you're not going to peel your blueberries. So the simple thing is, if you're going to eat the whole thing, organic matters more. Also, if it's a more fragile plant, like spinach or something like that, where insects can really tear it up pretty well. Often pesticides are used more aggressively there. And the Environmental Working Group publishes a thing they call the Dirty Dozen. If you look up the Environmental Working Group, every year they update it, and they tell you the ones where organic really matters and the ones where it doesn't matter so much. All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, by the way, amazing, huh? Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
yeah, let's, come on. Okay.
Thank you.
Whoa, okay, let's do it, all right. Okay, so, hey.
Thank you.
While he's thanking everybody.
Thank you very much, thank you.
I would like to just ask him back in the next year or two. What do you think? Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
All right, so listen, we turn into pumpkins, plant-based pumpkins at about 9 o'clock. What time is it? Does anybody know? Oh, my Lord. All right, so we got to say goodbye. We'll see you next year. Okay, we'll be back. And thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching and for being a part of the PBNSG community. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for even more plant-based insights, expert interviews, and delicious recipes.